You know how people call The Room the worst movie ever made? Well, they're probably right. Culturally, linguistically, visually, The Room really is the worst movie ever made. But if you put it on a point scale next to 2025, A World Enslaved by a Virus, The Room would be better. The Room may be a stain on film and film language, that's what makes it so iconic, but to call 2025, A World Enslaved by a Virus, a stain would be giving it way too much credit. It is a single stray cat hair at best. And don't get me wrong, I used to be a film student, so I have my full first and last name on some really bad movies, but at least something was happening in them? 2025, A World Enslaved by a Virus, is a very nothing movie. Literally nothing happens in the movie, but it tries to trick us into believing it's some sort of action movie. Because I believe it would be hypocritical to review this nothing movie by saying nothing, I actually want to focus more on the language coding as it pertains to the real-life political context of this film. Film. If you're a Reddit atheist, you probably already clicked away, but don't worry, I'm still going to be talking about conservative Christianity and the actual plot of this movie, so to speak. But because I'm not too terribly focused on an actual film review, I'm not going to be talking about, the horrible editing, the bland cinematography, the fact that this movie looks like it was shot on an iPhone, the bold attempts at ADR, the J.A. Biztown looking production design, the improv acting and dialogue and script, the lack of color grading, and the fact that the actors' real-life German accents make this movie feel like it's starring a bunch of Nazis.
I want to fight. I don't just want to give up. I want to make a difference. And if everyone would start thinking like that, we could really achieve something big.
No, I'm not terribly interested in that right now, but it does make it fun to talk about. One thing that I do want to talk about in regards to film stuff, and I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but in the movie, COVID has completely taken over and the communists are forcing everyone to conform and wear masks, but the actors playing the communists don't actually ever wear masks. My speculation on this massive inconsistency is that because the actors in this movie are mainly hyper-conservative, where were you on January 6th type anti-maskers, they probably had a fit about having to wear masks for the roles, so production just overlooked that. Either that or their audio equipment was so bad that it would muffle their Deutschland accents too much. Both are equally hilarious and equally possible, in my opinion. Now, with all that out of the way, let's actually get into it.
The Bible. This is the Bible. You question the words of the mighty Jimmy?
2025, A World Enslaved by a Virus, is a science fiction film directed by Joshua and Simon Wesley, depicting a speculative near future where COVID-19 has taken over the entire world, and as a result has enacted a world government known as communism and has deprived all Christians from practicing their faith. If you don't believe me, here is the opening title sequence. Traveling is illegal. Amazing. That's what I call filmmaking. The general plot follows a college student named Roy who feels compelled to save Christianity by spray painting fish on the ground for the first, no joke, 30 minutes of the movie. When Roy and his sister are caught, they are saved by their fellow Christian hunter and continue spray painting fish around the middle of nowhere.
So, Am I Christian?
They are found by a hacker in Discord mod who researches their symbols and decides to take their movement to the next level by hacking the police. Why do you need to hack the police in order to spread Christianity? To get the phone numbers of all the Christians, duh!
And we gotta find these Christians and build an underground army, right?
Absolutely.
So I can do that. I can get all the phone numbers of the Christians if I hack the police.
What?
This That's a game changer.
So anyways, they get the addresses of all the convicted Christians in the world and use the power of futuristic technology to send them all songs to pray to. Eventually, Roy ends up giving a totally original speech to his army of, six Christians? Which immediately puts Roy on the communist radar because, obviously.
Let's fight for our freedom, for the children of our children. They may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom.
The search continues until the end, and eventually Roy is chased down by the police and executed for his Christian crimes. Wait, did they just shoot him twice? Weren't they aiming for his head? Oh, come on, a blooper reel? But, yeah, that's the entire movie. Communists win the war on spray paint. Oh look, a scene out of context.
The time when life was worth living. A world full of peace, love, and ice cream.
So, what does this movie mean? What is it trying to say? Well, even in all its nothingness, I think it's pretty obvious that this movie is a conservative fever dream. A conservative smoothie, if you will. The idea that Christianity will be completely illegal and communism will take over the world in 3 years goes far past film inconsistencies. There is an estimated 2.3 billion Christians in the world right now, but is this movie really about Christianity becoming obsolete? Does this movie even know what communism is? I would argue not. Maybe it's a bit generous to say, but these filmmakers know what they're doing in terms of the language they use and the way that they use it. So let me start off my argument by asking you this. What does a conservative think communism is? Is it mask mandates? Is it Black history? Is it face-eating leopards? Is it supply chain issues? Is it even iPhone? No, this is actually a pretty easy one. It's anything they don't like. In the same vein that conservatives think leftists call everyone a Nazi, conservatives literally call everything communism. They call Joe Biden a communist. Man, I fucking wish. There is a scene in the movie that describes capitalism and they call it communism.
We have to keep the people obedient. I have an idea. The people have to swear every day unto the Constitution. So they have to say that there is nothing better and glorious than our state.
That's good.
At this point, I legitimately started believing that this was a parody. I thought there was no possible way this couldn't be satire, but I was wrong, because a parody would be so much more entertaining. Anyways, I spoke a little bit about this in my QAnon video. You should go watch that, by the way. But I am of the belief that many conservatives genuinely seem to advocate for lifestyles similar to what communists advocate for, in the sense that they want their health to be taken care of, they want their property to be taken care of, and they want their rights to be taken care of. But they are so plagued by Fox News and shit like this movie that words like communism and CRT and mask mandates get equated with bastardized versions of themselves. And on the flip side, you also end up seeing things rooted in white supremacist connotations get equated with all that is good. So, like in this movie, the main conflict is that Christianity is legal. And I'm not saying that Christianity is inherently a white supremacist movement, but in conservative spaces, phrases like family values or Christian values often are.
And this is the home of positive populism, pro-worker, pro-family, pro-community, and especially pro-America. Nearly 2 years now we've pointed out not only how cruel it all was, but how counterproductive. Right at the beginning, we warned that the cure was worse than the disease. And now we see it wasn't even a cure. The lockdowns didn't even stop the spread or save lives or whatever it was they were supposed to do. So we talked about all that, but here's another way of looking at it. A deeper way, perhaps. What it all adds up to is a massive attack on what has been for so long one of America's greatest strengths, our work ethic. And the Democrats want to make it worse. They want more welfare, more reasons not to work, more money from the government to sit around at home. And they're attacking family, too. And now the anti-family forces are getting bolder, more aggressive, more extreme. As we've pointed out here many times, it is a core part of the wokeism that has infected the left and the establishment in this country. In the 1920s, Marxist philosophers got together in Germany. They were trying to explain why the communist revolution didn't take hold everywhere, and concluded it was because the elites used more than just economics to oppress the workers. They used faith, family, and culture too. So those things must be destroyed. And here we are today, BLM, the woke lunatics, directly attacking family life in America.
So, in my opinion, this movie doesn't actually care about Christianity, but rather the whiteness that accompanies it. If Christianity is white and Christianity becomes obsolete, then whiteness becomes obsolete. And that is a growing fear among the white supremacists who genuinely think this way. Why else do you think that there's an uprising about Black history being taught in schools? Why else do you think that they call it critical race theory and not American history? Why else do you think they equate this with communism? This movie isn't explicitly racist. They don't do blackface or actively deny the Holocaust. They don't actually even talk about race. But I think it's important to understand that conservative language coding is absolutely rooted in racism and not just a misunderstanding of what communism is. With that being said, let me answer the first question. What is this movie actually trying to say? Because from what I've seen, they don't make a compelling argument for why communism is bad. None of these people have jobs, but they have a roof over their heads, free education, aren't waiting in bread lines, and can send illegal CDs across the globe without any communist interference. And it certainly doesn't make a case for why Christianity is good. They don't learn anything from the Bible, and practicing it gets people killed, allegedly. So what? What's the point? The point isn't that Christianity is good and communism is bad, but rather anything good is Christian and anything bad is communist. Because, I mean, if any of these people actually followed Christianity as it had been intended, they would be way closer to communism than anything they argue is actually communist. Take a look at this, for example.
Our whites became gray, mixed by the government. They decide when your children get born, what job you get, and when you should die. But the freedom that was taken from us. And what do? We hide. We follow, we obey. And even if that means that our children are getting taken from us, we just say yes, always.
When Roy gives his silly little Braveheart speech, you don't really know what he's talking about. What he's saying isn't happening, and it hasn't happened in the span of COVID. You don't know what he's saying, but you know what he means. This speculative future they talk about is not a future they see, but rather the way they see themselves now. A target of people, of a culture, of an ideology that they don't know anything about. This is the nature of conservative language coding. This is the point of this video. To be honest, it is kind of silly to use this movie as an example, but I think it's simple enough to demonstrate the heart of conservative values without having to plunge into QAnon again. And, admittedly, it's fun to make fun of bad movies. Thanks for watching.